There is some absolutely wild reporting about what the new Superman movie might have cost Warner Brothers to make. And I think there are only two circumstances under which this or anything approaching this would make sense. And we will get there at the end of this article. Pardon me, in an article titled Superman's Budget Could Soar as High as $400 million thanks to an unprecedented marketing campaign, subtitled DC Studios co-CEO James Gunn dismissed the possibility of Superman having a $363 million budget last year, but a new report from the trades suggests that figure might not be inaccurate after all. From comicbookmovie.com by Josh Wilding, who has been there since 2009, just 3 years after the Brandon Routh Superman. In the article, we get this. Last year, Superman made headlines when documents filed by the movie's production team with the Ohio government to seek incentives listed the budget as $363.8 million. DC Studios co-CEO and Superman director James Gunn was quick to debunk the story, taking to social media to write, "How in the world do they think they know what our budget is?" The only problem with his response was that the documents in question were official, meaning if that wasn't their budget, Warner Brothers can be in some very serious trouble. This wasn't a number plucked out of thin air by a social media scooper. Recently, we've heard that Superman will cost $225 million after incentives and tax breaks. The Hollywood Reporter, however, disputes the figure. While that may indeed be the cost of production, a robust marketing campaign makes that $363 million figure a little more likely. One longtime financier says that $363 million figure isn't incorrect, writes the trade, and sources say DC and its parent could spend as much as $200 million on the global marketing campaign, compared with the usual $150 million for an all-audience summer tentpole. So it's it's a 25% kick up from the normal type of budgeting for a tentpole film. It wouldn't be a surprise since Superman kicks off the Gunn era and needs to work, at the box office. Either way, between the budget and marketing, it's certain to land in the $400 million club. The report continues. According to a veteran studio source, Superman, which opens July 11th in North America, is exploding on social media, with the first full trailer raking in 250 million plus views, the most in Warner Brothers DC history. Well, I have to be honest with you. I watched it too. I watched it twice. Neither of those times was I particularly impressed. I don't understand the James Gunn take on the Superman character, but that's something we'll talk about a little bit in a moment. It adds, based on such metrics, a domestic debut of $175 million or thereabouts is within the realm of possibility. It even has a shot at finishing with $1 billion plus globally. There's no way to defend these budgets because when you get into the $700 million to $900 million to break even point in regards to the box office and ancillary revenue, it doesn't make any sense, says a veteran financier. While those potential box office figures are good news for Superman, it certainly doesn't sound like the DCU movie will make a massive profit. Then again, it might not be the point to this one. DC Studios is looking to restore faith in a tarnished brand, and if they deliver a great movie that grosses $1 billion worldwide, then no one will care how many millions it may have been made by the studio. The public perception will be that DC is back and better than ever. If Superman soars next month, then it will bode well for Supergirl, Woman of Tomorrow, and Clayface. However, if Deadpool and Wolverine proved anything, it's that one movie's success doesn't necessarily carry over into another. Captain America Brave New World, and Thunderbolts. How much did the Fantastic Four First Steps cost? That's not clear, and the movie isn't mentioned in this article. Superman arrives in theaters on July 11th, 2025. So, what would make, in order to break even, it would if it cost $400 million to make, it would have to earn $900 to $1 billion, $800 to $1 billion. So exactly what are you looking at here that might make it worth it? Well, you're introducing Superman to a completely new generation. I nabbed this from Wikipedia. This is Superman's last films, all of the Superman films. So all the way back to Superman in 1978. Look at when Superman's last movie screen appearance was. 2017. I could not believe it was that long ago. That is 8 years in the past. If you are put yourself back in your youth. You were a graduating high school senior, probably approaching the pinnacle of your movie-going days. Most people, I think, go to more movies through like their mid-20s, and then it kind of trails off. So you're 18 years old, just graduated high school, going off to college. You want to take your high school sweetheart out to see a movie, but Superman, well, he's a little bit of an unknown quantity. The last time he appeared on a movie screen, you were 10 years old. The last time he had his own movie, if you were 18 years old today, you were 6 years old. You were a second grader the last time Superman had a standalone film, Man of Steel in 2013. Absolutely insane. Now, by the way, if I'm not mistaken, wasn't Iron Man 3 that same year, or was it 2012? So Avengers came out I believe Iron Man 3 was 2013 as well. So you're looking at a long time for both Superman and Iron Man to have really had a go on the silver screen. But the Man of Steel has the last time before Henry Cavill was 2006. You were coming up on 20 years so in a couple weeks now, it'll be 19 years since the previous iteration of Superman. It is strange because Superman seems to be such a part and parcel of pop culture, but he has not appeared on the silver screen all that many times when you look at how far back his character goes. His character goes back very, very long. You're looking at one of the original comic book superheroes. And the fact that he only started appearing on screen, on the silver screen, in 1978 is indicative of the fact that the character itself is very hard to adapt. How do you make a movie when the character that you're focusing on is basically indestructible? Now, you have to focus on other parts of that character, but Lois Lane is not as interesting as the bad guys. And I think a lot of people just don't care about the romance portion of superhero films. So you're already fighting an uphill battle when you're looking at something like bringing Superman to the screen. Added to the fact that young people today, Superman simply does not mean anything to them. I'm nearly 40 years old. When I was young, the Christopher Reeves movies were still kicking around. When I was young, there were animated television shows. When I was young, there was a TV show. I don't know that there's anything approaching the type of cultural relevance that Superman had back when I was a kid. So I think that they're already facing an uphill battle, but if they can introduce this character to a brand new generation, then it makes sense. Having a movie that maybe you break even on, maybe you don't even break even on this Superman film, but if you can establish Superman to sell toys and backpacks and lunch boxes, that alone is worth a great deal of money to the company. But the second thing here, you were setting up an entire brand, not just Superman. You were setting up a brand like Disney had with the MCU. Now, I think that what they are setting up looks closer to what DC had on television. For whatever reason, this movie does not look like it has the grandeur to me. Maybe I'm wrong. It does not look as if it has the gravitas to me. Maybe I'm wrong. Now, say what you want about the Brandon Ruth Superman, they at least tried to give it gravitas. Say what you want about Man of Steel, they tried to give it something. Christopher Reeves in the original Superman movies had his own charisma and gravitas to him. That is why those movies worked. I don't see it here. But if you can pull it off, if they feel as if they have pulled off something that can kickstart an MCU like experience, then losing even the full $400 million is nothing. If they've kicked off an experience that can make Green Lantern a profitable movie, that can make Martian Manhunter a profitable movie, that can return Batman to being the cash cow that once he was, then they could put this movie out and give the tickets away for free. If they thought that they could make this iteration of DC characters an iteration that looks something like the early MCU, they could literally give tickets away to this movie. They could make it first come, first serve, and within a few films, they would be right back at even. With the chance to accelerate right past that with all of the marketing, etc., that they could do. Remember, if anyone can do it, it might be James Gunn. If anyone can do it, it might be James Gunn. The MCU was rocking and rolling a little bit before Guardians of the Galaxy. It really was. Iron Man was a really good movie. I still contend that the Hulk, the original Hulk in the MCU with Edward Norton, had the greatest superhero fight scene of all time. They had Captain America, which is, I think, generally underrated. Thor, which introduced Anthony Hopkins to the MCU, and you can't go wrong with that. You had a score of movies prior to Guardians of the Galaxy. And everyone was kind of on board with the MCU. If it looks good, I'll see it. That was kind of the thought process for the general movie-going audience. But when Guardians of the Galaxy dropped, a movie that no one thought looked good, a movie that no one expected, I was a Marvel Comics fan. I didn't expect to like Guardians of the Galaxy. I didn't expect to remember their names after leaving the theater. At that point, I personally was sold on the MCU. I was going to see every iteration of every movie out with which they came. But Guardians of the Galaxy sold the MCU for the greater public. The fact that the general movie-going audience can go into a movie theater and seriously watch a movie about a talking tree and a talking raccoon and like the movie means that you have the benefit of the doubt from the audience, means that the audience is willing to suspend their disbelief. Will the audience get there with James Gunn's Superman? Somehow, at least in my opinion, James Gunn managed to take a Superman film and make it look goofier than a talking tree and a talking raccoon. That is all I have for this video. If you like or appreciate what it is that I do here, hitting the like button really does help me out, as it tells YouTube to share this video with other people. And if you find yourself here by chance but not design, consider hitting the subscribe button, because these are the types of things that I do on the channel. And as always, I hope to have you back for the next one.